Hi, my name is Carrie Locke. This is Introduction to Computers, CS115. We're on Chapter 5, Digital Safety and Security, Identifying Threats, Issues, and Defenses. So for an overview of what we'll be covering, this is week 7. We're going to break this chapter up into 2 weeks. So we'll be covering this chapter through week 7 and week 8. So for week 7, we're going to start with some housekeeping. We're going to cover digital security risks, internet and network attacks, unauthorized access and use, software theft. Then we're going to go over the assignment for this week. And we'll look at the quiz, the upcoming quiz for chapters 1 and 3. So for the presentation slides, I'm using Google Slides, and the slide template I got from Slides Carnival. For this beautiful recording, I'm using OBS, which is Open Broadcaster software, and this awesome hover effect, and which allows me to just have my head floating above you here. I'm using Zoom. So for housekeeping, the content will be up each week at the beginning of the week. And according to the quiz survey that I had up for last week, about half of the class actually responded for that. And out of the respondents, about 90% of the respondents stated that they were available Saturdays from 3 to 4. Therefore, quizzes and or tests will be posted on Saturdays at 3 o'clock. And your test, your quiz on chapters 1 through 3 will be this Saturday, a week from Saturday, on 3/13 at 3 o'clock. And that I did that so that you'd have enough warning on that. And I wanted to make sure that I posted it at a time that was agreeable to at least the majority of the class. And that would be Saturdays at 3 o'clock. Again, this needs repeating. The content will be up at the beginning of the week. Any assignments will be at the end of the week, they'll be due. And any changes will be announced through Web Campus. And that's so that that'll be distributed through your Rebel Mail. So most of the assignments have been graded. The most recent ones have not. And please check those. If you see any errors, let me know right away. And the same goes for the quiz that you had, the syllabus quiz that you had. So if you entered ZERO instead of 0, that wasn't graded correctly, let me know. If you notice something like that, just email me. Let me know. I'll look at it and award you the points. I mean, 0, ZERO instead of 0 is your correct answer, and I'll give you points on that. Let me know. So jumping into chapter 5, digital security risks. So a digital security risk is any event that could cause loss of or damage to hardware, software, data, information, or processing capability. The key word there is it is an event. So a digital security risk with cybersecurity, it is considered an event if something happens. So internet and network attacks, unauthorized access and use, hardware, software, information theft, system failure, those are some of the examples. So some of the breaches are accidental, and most of the breaches are intentional. Some intruders don't do any damage at all. They just access the damage, information, or programs, and some intruders actually leave evidence that they've been there. They leave a message, they leave a little token for you to find. Or they deliberately alter or damage the data. So a computer crime is listed as any illegal act involving the use of a computer or related device. A cyber crime, on the other hand, is an internet-based illegal act, such as distributing malware, theft, or committing identity theft. So crimeware is any of the software or any of the programs that are used by cyber criminals. Now, hacker. So hacker is originally a positive term. So when somebody would say to someone, "Oh, you're such a hacker," it was a good thing. It meant that they were a great coder. It meant that they were really good at what they did, anything revolving computers. They were any kind of computer enthusiast. If you were called a hacker, that was a good thing. The media is what actually turned the word hacker into a negative thing. Another point here is that some hackers will now take the common meaning for that, meaning a negative. So some hackers actually claim that their security breach was to improve security. So they claim that it's for the overall good because they're bringing the failures in security to the attention of everybody. A cracker. Cracker accesses a computer or network illegally with the intent of destroying data, stealing information, or some other malicious activity. Hackers and crackers, they have very advanced computer and network skills. Now, script kiddies, on the other hand, they have the same intent as the cracker. They have the malicious intent, but they don't have the technical skills or knowledge. They use prepackaged software, prepackaged hacking and cracking programs to commit the malicious activities. So the Kali software that you installed has a lot of software programs that can be used for malicious intent. That would be a script kiddie event. So somebody that used that software for malicious intent would be called a script kiddie. Not you, of course. You would never use it for malicious intent. Somebody else, not you. Corporate spies. They have excellent computer and networking technical skills, and they are actually hired to break into specific computers or networks and steal their proprietary data. They're hired to help identify security risks within the corporation, so they could be hired for the greater good by the company itself to identify risks. Or they could be hired to commit corporate espionage against another company. Corporate spies. So unethical employees, they are the ones that break into systems. They could be doing it to exploit weaknesses, maybe financial gain by selling the confidential information to a competing company. They could be disgruntled and they just want revenge. A cyber extortionist, they demand payment to stop an attack against organization's technological infrastructure. Banks, this happens to banks quite a bit. They are threatened, and the banks don't often report this because if they reported this, or businesses don't often report this because if they report it, it's quite damaging to their reputation. Nobody wants to hear that Bank of America got hacked. Because who wants to store their money in Bank of America if Bank of America got hacked? And the same thing goes for many companies. Their reputation is on the line. Their customers don't feel safe doing business with a company that can get hacked. So quite often this does not go reported, and it does not get investigated, and therefore it doesn't end up going to court. They can threaten to expose confidential information, exploit a security flaw, or launch an attack that will compromise the organization's network. Ransomware would fall under this category also. Ransomware attacks the system, encrypts the data that's on the system, and then you must pay them to get the data decrypted. So that is, they can use ransomware in this instance. Cyber terrorist. They use the internet or the network to destroy or damage computers for political reasons. They tend to attack large systems, SCADA systems, they're called, air traffic control systems, electricity generating companies, water companies, telecom infrastructure. These are major. If these go out, we're in big trouble. And that leads us right into cyber warfare, an attack that ranges from disabling a government's computer network to crippling a country. This is a team of highly skilled individuals. They're funded by millions of dollars, and these attacks take several years of planning. They tend to be backed by the country themselves, whether it's out in the open or covert, and they tend to go for the above, which is the air traffic control systems, the generators, the basic infrastructure of the country that they're attacking in one way or another. And as I said, they tend to be government funded, either covertly or overtly. Internet and network attacks. You might have heard this one before. I don't know, maybe. So, Gene Spafford. The only truly secure system is one that is powered off, cast in a block of concrete, and sealed in a lead-lined room with armed guards. And it's not a very useful system. Cybersecurity, network security, security in any way, shape, or form is always a balance between usability and security. So a system that is powered off in a concrete block, sealed in a lead-lined room with armed guards, is not a very usable system. So it is always a delicate balance between usability and security. So here we're going to go through the different types of malware. Some of these you've seen before. We're going to make sure that we all have the same terminology. I'm going to show you a website later, or maybe I'll do that after I go through these. I think after the next slide I will. It's some pretty cool stuff. So that'll help you to see some of the stuff that we're talking about here. Malware is malicious software, and that's programs that act without a user's knowledge and deliberately alter the operations of a device. So they tend to have a payload, what's called a payload, and that's the delivery of the destructive event. It could be the file, it could be when you connect to the unprotected network or run an executable. That how the malware is delivered is called the payload. So a virus is a potentially, by the way, everything that we're talking about after the definition of malware, it all falls under the category of malware. Malware is a general description of all of these. It's like saying that somebody has a rash. It's not saying what type of rash they have, they just have a rash. So the same goes for malware. Now we're going to discuss the different types of malware. So a virus is a potentially damaging program that affects or infects a device negatively, and it alters the way that the device works without the user's knowledge or permission. A worm is a program that copies itself repeatedly. It might be in memory or on a network, but it uses up the resources, possibly shutting down the computer, device, or network. There's some pretty famous worms. I didn't list them here, but there's some pretty cool worms that have been gone through the internet. The key word for a worm is that it copies itself repeatedly. It replicates. until it shuts down the computer, device, or network. A Trojan horse is a program that hides within or looks like a legitimate program. And unlike a virus or a worm, a Trojan horse does not replicate itself onto other devices. The virus replicates also, by the way. A Trojan horse does not replicate. A rootkit, program that hides in a device and allows someone from a remote location to take full control of the device. The rootkit out of these ones is the big one. The rootkit, when you've got a rootkit on your device, you might as well just wipe your device and rebuild. There's no getting a rootkit out. Root, the word root is key there. It's down in your system like a root. Spyware is a program placed on a device without the user's knowledge that secretly collects information about the user and then communicates that information to some outside source while the user is online. Remember that spyware cannot, it needs to be online because it's sending the information out. Now, it can collect the information and wait until you go back online and then send the information out. So it can continue to collect the information. Adware. Adware is a program that displays an online. I don't know what happened to my image here. My image seems to have stopped. Let me continue with Adware. Adware is a program that displays an online advertisement in a banner or pop-up window, an email message, or an other internet service. We've talked about Adware before, and Adware is the one that you got to watch out for because Adware is. There we go. Now I'm not frozen. I'm not so stiff. We've talked about Adware before. Be careful with Adware. Make sure that you close it from the start bar. Do not click on the window in Adware. Adware is also a very good reason that you should not be running as administrator or root on your system. You should always be running as a limited user, and a lot of people get offended by running as limited user. It's not meant to be an offense. It's meant to be a protection, so that if a pop-up happens or a banner happens, it does not install the malware in the background. It does not have the permission to do so. So do not run as an administrator. Run as a limited user and only access your administrator or your root account when you need to install something. I live like that. It's not difficult. Always use a limited user account. Make sure that you have a root account and you have the password to it, but run as a limited user. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so let's get through at least the next slide before we go into some demos. A botnet. Botnet. It's a zombie army. Zombies. It's a group of compromised devices connected to a network that are used to attack other networks, usually for nefarious purposes. It's for nefarious purposes. So these are compromised devices that the owners don't know that they're compromised. So the owners are just going about their regular business, and the zombie or the botnet, they don't realize that they're compromised. So they're just going about their business, and their computer is attacking somebody in the background. I'm not supposed to laugh. It's not funny. It's bad. It's very bad. But it's kind of odd that can even happen. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Okay, zombie. A compromised computer or device. Here it is. The owner is unaware that the computer or device is being controlled remotely by an outsider. Imagine that your resources just all of a sudden are slightly limited. But the key here is that the owners don't know. So the malware perpetrator does not want you to know that you have malware on your system, because if you knew you had malware on your system, then they don't get to use your system to do their nefarious things. All right, so a bot is the actual program that performs the repetitive task on the network. So a DOS attack is actually a denial of service attack. It's an assault whose purpose is to disrupt computer access to the internet, such as web or email. It's done by creating an influx of confusing data messages or useless traffic to a device. A distributed DOS attack is a zombie army attack computers. It's when a zombie army attacks computers or computer networks. So a DOS attack is when, say, my computer connects to, we'll use Bank of America again. Poor Bank of America. Let's use Wells Fargo. It's when my computer perpetrates an attack against, say, a Wells Fargo computer and actually shuts that computer down in one way or another. Whether it attacks their firewall, whether it attacks their web server, whatever it attacks. And I'm oversimplifying this, but you understand. My computer is attacking Wells Fargo and it shuts down a service at Wells Fargo. Now, a distributed DOS attack is when I'm the bad guy and I have many computers. Say I had the honors college at UNLV. I don't. Just for the record, I do not. Say I owned all the computers. It's called owning them or pwning them, or there's lots of words for it. So I owned all the computers at the honors college at UNLV. I had the bot program installed on them, and I had all of them attack Wells Fargo. So that would be a distributed DOS attack. So now Wells Fargo all of a sudden is getting attacked by all of these different computers instead of just a single computer. It's more difficult to fight against a DOS attack. And now imagine it's not just coming from the Honors College at UNLV. It's coming from all over the United States. It's coming from New Jersey. It's coming from New York. It's coming from Florida. It's coming from Texas. And imagine it's not only coming from the United States, it's coming from all over the world. And I'm going to show you in a minute just how that happens. Now, so the idea is to stop operations. So it's to completely shut down Wells Fargo. And some major companies have had this happen. Just to give you a couple of examples here, Yahoo, eBay, Amazon, CNN have had this happen. The White House, I know that the White House website has had it happen. So many companies have had this happen. The idea is to disrupt revenue, destroy reputations, and to delay time-sensitive data or time-sensitive items. So a backdoor is a program or a set of instructions in a program that allows the users to bypass security controls when accessing a program, computer, or network. It's not necessarily a bad thing in itself. Once on a device, a perpetrator can often install the backdoor. That's the idea, is once you hack into a device, you install the backdoor so that you're always able to access that device. Or they modify an existing program to include the backdoor, which allows them to continue to remote in. The remote rootkit can be a backdoor. Some worms leave backdoors that are used to spread other worms or distribute spam. Programmers quite often build the backdoor into them. Systems administrators quite often build backdoors into their systems. Employees quite often, systems administrator employees, tech employees quite often have backdoors into systems. If for some reason they can't get in the regular way, they want to be able to get into their system if something is wrong. There you go, computer technicians. Spoofing, I wrote these slides. I'm surprised when I read each line. Okay, spoofing techniques Spoofing is a technique used to obfuscate your identity. It can be email spoofing, where the sender's email address or other components of what's called the email header are altered so that it appears that the email message originated from a different sender. It can be used in virus hoaxes, spam, phishing scams. IP spoofing occurs when the intruder computer fools the network into believing that its IP address is associated with a trusted source. So you change your IP. IP spoofing occurs when you change your IP. You can interact with a phony website, provide confidential information, or download files containing viruses, worms, or other malware. The header, you can see your header. Anybody can see the header of the email. So you can go into your settings on your email and you can actually expand your header, and that tells you exactly who sent you the email, and it tells you what server it went through and all kinds of technical information that I find very interesting, that I like to read and I like to see. Safeguards against malware and network attacks. So some of the things that you can do, and we've talked about some of these things. I actually didn't have it listed on here, and we did this. So today, we have the beautiful music from my clock in the background. Today, it's really good to have a password manager, because passwords are getting more and more complex, and it's better to have really complex passwords. That's one of your first defenses whenever you're online. So a good password manager should be on that list, and I didn't put it on that list. Antivirus software. A lot of people think that they don't need antivirus software, or they say, well, I got a Mac and my Mac doesn't need antivirus software. Macs need antivirus software. So antivirus software. Be suspicious of any unsolicited email. If you click on something and you say yes to something, then there's nothing that's going to stop it. You are the best defense. Be very suspicious of any unsolicited email. Don't double check it. If it looks funny, trust your instinct. Scan any removable media before you install it or add it to your computer. Use a firewall. Use your own personal firewall on your system. We will get to that. Do regular backups that have the floor to fall to if something happens. So back up your system regularly. Keep your operating system software or in your software updated. That's a really good one. That's one that people often overlook. Update your operating system. When your operating system sends out an update, it's usually telling you, hey, we found a vulnerability and we've repaired it, and here is the patch for it. Disable macros. Macros are little scripts that run in the background, and they quite often are a vector for malware. As I said, do not run as root or admin. Read the warnings. Read the warnings that you see. Read the error message that you see. Quite often people just click out of those. They're telling you something, and they're getting better and better every day. So read your warnings. Stay informed. Try to stay informed. By stay informed, I mean through reputable sources. So try to keep up. Try to keep at least kind of one ear to what's going on, so that you have some kind of idea of what to watch out for. That way, when you see the email pop up, you're like, oh yeah, I knew that was coming. A firewall. A firewall can be hardware or software, and it protects a network's resources from intrusion by users on another network. It protects resources from outsiders, It can restrict employees' access to sensitive data, such as payroll or personnel records. It can keep data inside the network. It's called DLP, data leak protection. That way, data cannot be exfiltrated from a company. So companies can implement a firewall themselves, or they can outsource these days. They can outsource their firewall protection to an outside company, and that outside company can come in and do a hardware firewall, or that outside company, a lot of times they have online solutions these days, or they can do a combination of an online solution and a hardware solution for firewall protection for a company. Small companies, a lot of small companies are going with an outsourced firewall because they don't want to have an entire cybersecurity team. Personal firewall, there we go. I knew we were going to get to that. I just wasn't sure we were going to get to it in this lecture. Personal firewall. It's a software that detects and protects a personal computer and its data from intrusions. It is constantly monitoring all transmissions to and from. Windows, Mac, and Linux operating systems include firewall capabilities. Your home router does have some firewall capabilities, but you should still add a personal firewall. So you should, even though your home router does have some firewall capabilities, you should still add a personal firewall on your personal computer. It is they're different the way that they monitor traffic. Okay. So before we get to this slide, let's go ahead and switch over, and I want to show you see if I can get my mouse over there. Okay. So on this site here, so a lot of the information, the best information, some of the best information that you can find online are put out by the actual firewall companies. So this is ForcePoint. ForcePoint, they offer, I'm not sure if they offer a hardware firewall. They do offer, probably. Let me look at it. I can just look real quick under products. Security as a service, private access. There's your data loss prevention, not leak. And I was worried about that L. Data loss prevention. Next generation firewall. So they offer firewall services, and they also offer some other security services, which we're not going to go into, but they offer a whole suite of security services for companies. But what they also offer is public information. So if you're curious or you want to find out more information, or something happens and you want to find out information, then they have great information on what is a virus, what is a worm, what is spyware. And a lot of these firewall companies firewall and antivirus companies offer really great up-to-date information on the attacks that are currently in the wild, is what it's called, in the wild. So if these are great information sources for what's going on, and they're up to date, and they tend to be really good information. So if you want more information, then those are there. I'll go ahead and post these links on Web Campus. So here's another one, and this one is put out by Norton. Norton is antivirus. Yes, I accept it. We talked about cookies. Yes, I accept. What is an exploit kit? Malicious website and drive-by downloads. That's why you don't want to run as administrator. Man-in-the-middle attacks, which we're not going to cover, but they're a lot of fun. Vulnerability and exploit database. So if something happens, then they have an entire list of vulnerabilities. So this is the CVE, and that's the official description definition of the different vulnerabilities. So if you think that something on your system might be vulnerable, or maybe you have a server or a web server or something up, then you can find out all the information here. So this is Cisco, so you have Red Hat, but you can actually search this. And denial of service. So this one, actually, this is Rapid7. Rapid7 is another very popular security company, and they go into all of the different types of attacks here. So this one is your distributed denial of service, which we already talked about. So, and they talk about the network targeted DOS, denial of service, the system targeted DOS, application targeted DOS, and how to subdue them, how to monitor for them, how to mitigate them. Okay. And now we get to look at the fun stuff. Okay. So you hear about all these attacks, and everybody's talking about all these attacks, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I've never had an attack. Well, you know, you're like, no, they're not really happening. So these are visuals. So these are visual maps, and they show you all of the different attacks. They show you the name of the attack. They show all the different colors represent the different types of attacks, and they show you the different countries, where they're coming from and where they're going to. And you can drill down in these maps, and they can tell you top 3 attack origins right now, according to SonicWall. SonicWall is another very popular security company. According to SonicWall, top 3 attack origins right now are France, United States, and UK. Top 3 attack targets are United States, UK, and India. Top attack types are intrusion, 4.4 million. And I believe that's probably per second. I'm sure that's per second. Top 3 attacker IP addresses. So that's Great Britain. I don't know that flag. Sorry, I don't know my flags. United Kingdom, that's UK. And I don't know that flag. I believe it's China. And they show you the IP address for it. So attack site statistics, and then you can drill down in the actual attack. But this is real time. These are really happening right now as we speak. Well, you're watching the video later, but you can go to the site and you can see it happening in real time. I will give you this link. This is another one. It's another visual. Let me go ahead and accept cookies. So this is a visual of the United States. This is brought to you by Kaspersky, and it shows you the different attacks. This is just beautiful. I mean, it's terrible that the attacks are happening, but it's beautiful that it shows you this in real time. So, and they, of course, are advertising Kaspersky and anti-spam. Kaspersky, I believe, is Russian-made antivirus, but it is a good antivirus, and I believe they have a free version. It is not listed on my list. Nothing personal against Kaspersky. I've heard great things about Kaspersky, but you can dig down into. You're traveling with one of them. This is movable, so you can move the map around. But are those going to satellites, I believe? Well, And I don't know. Let me see if I click on this, if it'll show us more about what the attacks are. Detections, real-time detections per second. Give it a second to load. Okay. So hack tool, and that is actually hacktool.win32.kmsauto.gen. These are the actual attacks that are being used. Dangerous object.multi.generic, trojan.win32, autorun.gen. These are the actual attacks that are being used, and the percentage of the tool being used. So this is in the last week. You can go through the last month. So this is actually really good. If you're a security expert and you want to protect against one of these, or you want to go on here and you want to see, hey, do I have a security hole in my network? And you can go on here and you can look, and you can look at these and you can research these. You can go back to that other website that I showed you, and you can say, what exactly are these, and am I protected against these? This is what people are using most commonly to attack, and am I protected against these, especially in your high risk or your areas that need the most protection. Say your payment areas, or something that stores your employee social security numbers. So those types of servers, those are the areas that you want to protect the most, and those would be the areas where you would want to do this extra work. So here's another map. Again, it's showing real-time events in a ticker, like a what's the ticker that shows the stock ticker? Just like a stock ticker, you have an attack ticker. I'm not sure why it's not showing the. Let me reload the page. Showing 16 DDoS events, 24 DDoS events. So March 2nd, 2021 is when I'm recording this specific event right here. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Showing 53 DDoS events, 59 DDoS events, 71 DDoS events. It's phenomenal. Right now, that's happening. These are distributed DOS events. So that's many computers attacking a single computer, or I mean, I guess they could attack many, but it's a distributed DOS attack. This isn't just one-to-one. It's just one to many. 220 distributed DOS. DDoS. 256. Wow. This is what's happening as we shop on Amazon. This is what's happening in the background as we go to Facebook, YouTube, Web Campus. Okay, next one. This is Checkpoint. Who is that one? Did I say who that one? This is NetScout. NetScout, yeah, I don't know a lot about NetScout. I've heard of NetScout. Oh, NetScout, I'm sorry. NetScout is the new, NetScout is the new, they make a lot of network tools. So they make some really fantastic network tools. It's the new name for our network tools. They change names. Checkpoint. Checkpoint, another big name security company. And they're showing you Trojans right here. Trojans with ransomware was that one that just passed through the page. Web server enforcement violation. Content protection violation. These are what's flying across the page. Crypto, I missed it. Content protection, they're going so fast I can barely read them. SolarWinds, Trojan, ransomware, content protection again, web server enforcement violation. So they're aggregating the attacks. Malware, okay, so red is malware, purple is phishing, and yellow is an actual exploit of a system. So somebody's actually exploited, they've actually gotten onto the system and exploited it. Okay, let's go to the next one, see what the next one is. This one, again, they're showing you the different breaches that are happening. This is by Fortinet. Fortinet is a firewall company, very reputable firewall company. Large hardware appliances, software appliances, online appliances, basically everything that we mentioned as far as firewalls they do. They also have other security items that they offer. Just showing you where a lot of the attacks are happening. This is basically war is happening in the background. Imperva, another security company. I'll gather all these links together, and I should have them up. Give me a couple of days on that, and then I'll have these up so that you guys can look at these. And then this page is basically an aggregate of the different, a lot of the different maps, and they describe them and they tell you what they do. Some of them I didn't have there, so I wanted to include this one for you. Okay, so let's go back to just fun stuff. It's interesting to see this. It's interesting because we talk about malware. Find my mouse. We talk about malware, but to actually see it happening in real time is a lot different than. Find my mouse is a lot different. There we go. To actually see it happening in real time is a lot different than just talking about it, because it's really happening. It's happening every second, every nanosecond. It's happening behind the scenes. We talk about it. We express the importance of antivirus, and it's all essential. These things are essential. They're essential for businesses. They're essential for your personal protection, and it's real. It's out there, and those maps show you all the different ways that you can see how essential it is to protect yourself. Okay, go back to Google Slides. I think we're almost finished. We got to home routers. Let's move on to the next slide. Unauthorized access and use. Unauthorized access. Use of a computer or network without permission. Unauthorized use is differentiated as the use of a computer or its data for unapproved, possibly illegal activities. So an acceptable use policy outlines the activities which the computer network may or may not be used. They specify the acceptable use of the technology for employees for personal reasons also, which may prohibit the use entirely. It may permit the use, no personal time at all, or you may only be able to check your email on the computer. You may or may not be able to use Facebook. You may or may not be able to use the printer. You may only be able to check your email on your lunch break or on your breaks. It defines all of those terms of use, and the fact that the computer is the company's property and that you are only permitted to use the device. Access control. The security measure defines who can access a computer, device, or network, when they can access it, and what they can access, what actions they can take while accessing it, also called ACLs. An audit trail records the successful and unsuccessful access attempts in a file. Audit trails, lots of audit trails, lots of logs, lots of records, and if nothing goes wrong, then those records are never looked at, and hopefully They never have to be looked at. The username, user ID, is a unique combination of characters such as letters, alphabetical, or numbers that identifies one specific user. Oftentimes you'll see that the username is email address or maybe a student or employee ID. A password is a private combination of characters associated with the username that allows access to certain computer resources. Personal information is often used as a two-step verification. Security questions are often used. The security questions, when they ask your mother's maiden name, don't you give them your mother's maiden name. You do not have to answer these questions correctly. When they ask what city you were born in, those are perfect questions for identity theft. Never give them that information. It's none of their business. If they ask that information, lie to them, but maybe lie consistently so that across the board you can remember what answers you gave to whom. But it's none. If somebody asks you your mother's maiden name, it's none of their business, and you are under no obligation to give them your mother's maiden name. I mean, unless it's the court that's asking you for that information, or unless it's some official legal sort of business. If it's Cox Cable that's asking your mother's maiden name for their security question, no, you do not have to provide that. And I'm not saying that Cox actually does ask for that. I'm just using them as an example. It's up to you entirely, but I would not give them personal information. It's not necessary. Just a little tip there. Also, when it comes to this, and I don't think I've mentioned this before, when it comes to companies asking for this sort of stuff or asking for your email address, I have a garbage email. Excuse me. I have what I call a garbage email, so that when a company asks for my email address, unless it's a company that I actually want to communicate with, that I actually want to receive the emails from, and I don't, I don't, what's the reverse of this? I want to receive their spam emails. I don't give them my actual email address. I give them the garbage email address. So say it's Sephora Beauty, because I'm so beautiful. I shop there all the time. I give them an email, a garbage email address. By garbage email address, I don't mean that it's a bad email address. It is an active and working email account that I use, but it is a separate email account from my primary personal email account. And I use that for any vendor that I don't want to receive their constant notifications. I don't care when Sephora is having a sale. If they're having a sale and I want to know, I'll look it up on that email account. But I don't want to know regularly. I don't want to know every day, every other day that they have a special on a beauty product. So I send that to what I call a garbage email. It's just a separate email account that I have access to, that I use for this sort of situation. You might have already known that trick, but if you didn't, then use a garbage email for vendors that you don't want to communicate with regularly. Possesses, excuse me. Objects, badges, those can also be used for two-step verification. Those can get very complex and very complicated depending on the company. Biometric devices. Biometric devices can authenticate a person's identity and by translating a personal characteristic. Fingerprint, digital code that is compared with a digital code stored in a computer, verifying a physical or behavioral characteristic. This section is really fun. So this section is really cutting edge. A fingerprint reader. or fingerprint scanner captures the curve and indentations of a fingerprint to secure doors, computers, software. They often cost less than $100. So you see this technology in use quite a bit. And your fingerprint obviously is unique. So so you see this quite a bit. And the fingerprint scanners can be very difficult to fool. They can also use, it's not mentioned here, but they can also use a temperature regulator. So your fingerprint must, when you press down, it must also register as a certain thermal degree. Otherwise, it will not pass. So fingerprint readers can be relatively expensive, and they're not a bad security if you're looking for a way to secure something. Face recognition. It captures a live face image and compares it with a stored image to determine if the face is a legitimate user. Buildings can use face recognition to secure the doors and rooms. Law enforcement surveillance systems. Airports can use face recognition to protect the public. They use the scanners to make sure that certain people that are not on the do not fly list do not fly. You've heard a lot about this with China and Hong Kong. They have been scanning protesters in Hong Kong using facial recognition, and so the protesters are using certain devices to try to hide their faces. The facial recognition has gotten much better in recent years, and so they're trying to obfuscate their faces if they're protesting. Hand geometry, and measures the shape and size of a person's hand. It can be a lot more expensive. Large organizations, it's used to security devices, colleges, daycare centers, nurseries, and hospitals. Hospitals can use these to verify that the parent picking up the child is actually the correct parent. Voice verification, voice recognition can compare a person's live speech with their stored voice pattern. Large organizations, again, can use this to secure files, to secure their network. Financial services can use this, secure banking transactions. Iris recognition uses the actual iris. So iris recognition reads the patterns in the iris of the eye, and irises are as unique as fingerprints. They're used in government, military, financial, and they're used to secure highly sensitive data. Retinal scanners are a variation of the iris scanners or iris recognition, and they're similar, but they scan the blood vessels in the back of the retina. Digital forensics or cyber forensics is the discovery, collection, and analysis of evidence found on computers and networks. It's used in law enforcement, criminal prosecution, military intelligence, and by insurance agencies, and some in the private sector. So one of the big questions with a lot of this biometrics, you'll hear a lot about this, is the gathering and storage of this information, because we've seen a lot of this already, and the precursor to this was your Social Security number. So if you're going to gather personal information on somebody and store that personal information, especially things like their biometric information, what are the regulations on that? So right now, all of this stuff is quote unquote in the wild. There's no real regulation on this as far as the storage and the usage of this information. So I have some personal views on this, but it's something to kind of be alert to as we move into the future, and as this stuff becomes more and more in our lives, and we see this becoming more and more in use. Who's storing your biometric information, and how are they storing it, and how are they using it? Software theft. When somebody steals software media, intentionally erases programs, illegally registers and or activates programs, or the most common, illegally copies a program. Software piracy. Piracy is unauthorized and illegal duplication, illegal copies of copyrighted software. That software piracy is actually the most common form of software theft. Safeguards against software theft. Secure your originals, lock them up. Back up your files, activate your product. Product activation ensures that software, it protects the vendor also. It ensures that the software is not installed on more PCs than it is actually licensed for. It has a product identification number. It allows only for a preset number of runtimes, maybe a limited functionality, or it might not run until it's activated. We reviewed this previously also. A license agreement is basically just like your right to use the software. It's a very long, complicated legal agreement that boils down to your right to use the software. A single user agreement, also called an end user agreement or a EULA, are the conditions for the use of software. Again, another very long, very legal document that defines the conditions for your use of the software. Okay, so your assignment for this week, we're going to use Google Sheets. We're going to do a spreadsheet, and this one's kind of fun. Follow the steps step by step. Follow the steps step by step. There's lots of pictures. There's arrows and squares and red squares and blue arrows, and follow the steps step by step. You should be fine on this assignment. There shouldn't be any issues with this. If you have any issues, meet me at office hours, contact me. Use Google Sheets inside of your Rebel Mail. You're going to create a spreadsheet, copy and paste the data that I provided, or type in the data that I provided. The idea, though, is to copy and paste the data that I provided. You're going to create a bar graph. You're going to manipulate the data a little bit. You're going to create a pie graph. You're going to do a little bit of formatting. Save the file as your first initial and your last name and the last 4 digits of your NG number. I gave you an example there of K lock 1234. And then when you save out your Google Sheets, you save it out and it'll be as XLSX. I think that's right, XLSX. And then just upload it to Web Campus. So for the upcoming quiz, now I delayed the quiz because I didn't feel that I gave you enough warning for the quiz. It's on chapters 1 through 3. I scheduled it for Saturday, 3/13 at 3 p.m. I wanted to make sure that that's going to be the best time for the entire class. I wanted to give you an opportunity to let me know what the best time for you would be. And according to the respondents, that would be Saturdays at 3 p.m. So that's what time the test is going to be. Quiz. Don't panic. It's a quiz. I wanted to make it chapters 1 through 3 because I wanted to make sure that it was manageable for you. I know you have a lot going on with midterms, et cetera, and I wanted to make sure that it was still manageable for you. I didn't want to include chapter 4. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't too much for you, too much content for you to study. Not too much for you because I'm sure you could handle it. If I could make it all the chapters so far, and you guys would do great. But I just wanted to I didn't want to make it a huge midterm. It's not a midterm. It's chapters 1 through 3. It's going to be just like the syllabus quiz. So there's going to be some multiple choice, and then there's going to be a lot of fill in the blanks. I like the fill in the blanks. For the fill in the blanks, I'm going to be looking for the exact answer. So look at the end of the chapters, look at the study guides. So look at the terms, look at the study guides at the end of the chapters. I'll have more information for you at the end of next week. Okie doke, that's it. You guys have a fantastic week. Stay safe, and I will see you soon. If you have any issues, contact me on Discord. Discord is probably the best way to contact me because it alerts me if you've left a message or if you've sent something. The second best way to contact me, or the parallel way to contact me, is via email. Make sure you put CS115 in the subject. Alrighty, you guys have a great week. Thank you. Bye.